this segment, we're going to talk about attaching our accessory SearMate to your Holland Grill. The SearMate's a great product. It's an infrared burner that gets up to over 900 degrees really quick, lets you sear steaks or burgers and finish them off on the Holland. It will fit all of our current models, full-size grills, and most of the old ones. First thing you want to do, of course, just like any product, unpack it all. Make sure all your parts are there. You can look at your owner's manual and check off. In this case, we're going to be installing one of our black SearMates to a Liberty grill. Gas hose is going to be packed down inside the SearMate. We need to route it out the side of the SearMate so we can attach it to the gas. So the first thing you want to do is remove this little track. This is what holds your drip pan in, the drip tray. Remove that. You don't have to take it all the way, just get it out of the way. And then pull your hose out and route it through this little notch here. We do this just to make sure that we don't cut or let that hose touch up against any sharp edges. So route your hose out the little notch. So route it through there, then put your drip tray rack back in place. Tighten it down good. The other thing you want to install before you start attaching it to the grill is this little hose guard. This simply routes the hose to make sure it keeps away from the hot bottom half of your grill. You don't want any part of this rubber hose touching a hot part of your grill. Don't want to have it melt, cause a potential fire. Right on the side of your SearMate is a little threaded hole that we're going to attach this hose guard to. First thing you'll do is thread it through, rubber bushing, and make sure the hose comes all the way through. And this will attach, this is looking at it upside down, with a little Phillips head screw right into that threaded slot on your SearMate. Line that up with a little hole on the side of the SearMate. Tighten it up with that Phillips screw. It's a threaded slot, so it'll fit right in. You don't need a nut on the other side. Tighten that up. Now you've installed your hose guard that will keep your hose from touching the hot surface. Now we're going to take a look at attaching it to the grill. The first thing you do when installing the SearMate to the side of your grill, in this case it's going to go on the right hand side of this Liberty grill, and it's going to go in the same holes that would have been there for the shelf brackets in your shelf. So those shelf brackets and shelf come off, and we use the same bolts that we're holding them on to attach the SearMate bracket. Now here's one important thing to notice. There's two sets of holes. You can see one is further away from the edge than the other. One is a lot closer. The edges that are a lot closer, the holes that are closer, that's the one that goes in the up position. So you'll install it in that position with these threads towards the top. So it's pretty simple. Put your 4 bolts in the outer holes and install that where the shelf brackets would have gone. After you've installed the SearMate mounting bracket, remember, put the side that has the slots closest to the edge in the upward position. 4 bolts go in there to secure that. With the bolts that came with the SearMate, just get them started a little bit in the top 2 holes. We'll show you why in just a second. The holes in that SearMate are in a keyhole shape, and it'll allow you to let the SearMate rest on these 2 bolts while you tighten everything else up. So the top 2 bolts you'll just want to start part way. Then you'll take your SearMate, attach it. You can see what I'm talking about. These top 2 holes are in that keyhole pattern. That'll allow you to rest them on those other 2. It's always good to have a little table, but I like to open the lid with all the guts out of it except the burner, and I'll just slide those 2 keyhole slots right over those 2 bolts. Make sure they're in far enough where they won't pull out, and then that'll allow us to put 2 bolts in the bottom and tighten these up and be ready to go. You can see I threaded my gas hose through the underside of the SearMate by removing one of the drip tray guards, and I attached the hose guard on there just to keep it from touching the hot part of the grill. After that, you put your 2 bolts in the bottom, tighten these up, and we'll be ready to go except for the gas connection. After you've got your SearMate secure to the side of the grill, your gas hose properly routed, you can start to put the guts back in. The liner, right like that. Your cooking grate, stainless steel cooking heavy duty grate, and you should just slide your drip tray right in, and we'll put our gas knob on, and you're about ready to go. Now all we have to do is hook up the gas, and we'll do that here in just a minute. Now we're going to attach the SearMate gas line in with the grill gas line so it all runs off the same propane tank. The first thing you want to do is remove your control panel. There were 4 Phillips head screws. I removed those. Disconnect your igniter, and you're going to see on a propane grill a configuration like this: your gas valve and then your regulator hose. What we're going to have to do here is tee into this connection so that you can hook up the SearMate hose to one end, and then your regulator hose will attach to the other end. To do this, you really only need a pair of channel locks and an adjustable wrench. The channel locks are for holding the gas valve in place while you disconnect the regulator hose that came with the grill. They're usually on there tight, so get that connected off. And remember the very important thing: anytime that you connect or disconnect hoses with any gas grill, you want to do a spray test with soapy water to make sure there's no leaks once you've put it all back together. So disconnect your regulator hose. You want to make sure this is good and tight. There's no need to take the gas valve out right now. So on one end of your gas valve is going to go this coupler. Remember, everything's got to be tight and snug. And then your T-fitting will go into the other end. Coupler and the T-fitting. That all screws together. You want to make sure it's tight, and that's where the channel locks come into play. We can make sure that's good and tight by holding the T valve tight, and then making sure your coupling is tight. The other end of the coupler, there's no need for pipe tape or anything here for leaks because these are flared fittings. Flared fittings don't leak naturally when they go into a flared coupler. So we'll put that on. Get that good and finger tight to start out with. And notice I'm holding this so that it doesn't turn. Getting it finger tight. And I don't want this moving around. I want to kind of position them down because it's going to be, the trick here is just to make sure again that none of the hoses with this extra coupling are going to be anywhere close to the bottom of the grill where it could melt. So I'll hold this, tighten it up good. Now that you've got your coupler attached to the gas valve and the T joint secured and tightened, now you want to hook up your gas hoses. The SearMate hose from what you just installed will go on one of the brass nipples of this T connector. Get it good and finger tight, and then we'll tighten it up with a wrench later. And then your regulator hose that you took off earlier that will attach to your propane tank goes on the other brass nipple. And it's, as we said, anytime you attach or detach and then put back on hoses and fittings, you want to make sure that they're good and tight. So I'm going to grab this back here with these channel locks and tighten this fitting up really good with my adjustable wrench. Same thing for the SearMate hose. Just make sure everything's good and tight, and we'll check it later for leaks. Now, before I tighten up this gas valve with the little lock nut back there, I want to make sure my holes are going to line up. So I'll turn that until the gas stem is moving up and down easy and my screw holes are lined up. And then I will hold it in place, and behind it I will tighten up this lock nut. We don't want this assembly moving, so make sure it's good and tight back here behind the gas valves, a lock nut. So now then what we'll do after this is all good and tight, we'll hook up our propane tank, we'll turn the gas on at the tank, and then spray all these connections with soapy water to make sure there's no leaks. Wherever there's brass and rubber attached, you want to spray that to make sure you've got no leaks. Make sure the hose is not touching anything on this bottom grill or the side. That can get really hot. We don't want your rubber hoses to melt. After that, you'll be done. Put your control panel back on. Attach your igniter. Very simple little process there. Make sure it's good and snug. Put your control panel back on. Make sure the stem is unencumbered. You can push it in and out easy. Put your 4 screws on. You're ready to go. Get your gas tank hooked up and you're ready to sear and Holland Grill, which is the best of both worlds.